All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. My name is Hannah Jennings, and I am an event organizer with Tech in Motion. We're so excited to be back in Dallas again this year. For those of you who are familiar with Tech in Motion, you know our goal is to bring together the tech community to talk about the most pressing IT topics of the day, and that's exactly what we're going to do here tonight. We have an outstanding panel of top Dallas tech leaders here today, and we have also a couple of our Timmy Awards honorees, so we are so thrilled to have them here to share their thoughts on AI-powered technology and kind of the future of work.
And I'm Lindsay Lewis. I'm the Executive Director of Marketing at Motion Recruitment, our proud founders when it comes to Tech in Motion. I've actually been a part of the Dallas tech community for 8 years and Tech in Motion for close to 11 years. So I'm pretty familiar with some of these faces, but also a lot of new ones in the audience. It's been incredible to witness the city's rise here in Dallas as one of the fastest growing IT hubs for talent in the country. Tonight, our panelists are excited to dive into the topic of AI-powered growth, a subject that's shaping the future of our industry. Before we get started, I'd like to hand things off to Matt and Corey here, who are from our founders at Motion Recruitment. They're going to kick things off by sharing some insights about what they're seeing in today's hiring market and the role that AI is playing in shaping the future of the job market in general. Please join me in welcoming them to the stage. They're already here.
Hi, everybody. Matt Harrington, Executive Director at Motion Recruitment. I've been in the tech community longer than Hannah and Lindsay have been alive, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, I've seen a lot of familiar faces, especially from our last event, and some new faces. It's been great visiting with you all this evening, and I'm excited for this event. Kudos to Tech in Motion and our marketing team for putting these on, as we really just show up and they have everything done for us. So a big hand to them for this and the great food that we had tonight. Thank you.
And I'm Corey Steininger. I'm our managing director for our local Dallas office here. As Lindsay alluded to and mentioned, we are the founders of Tech in Motion. So we hope you've all had a great time networking, learning more about some of these exciting insights we're going to learn about tonight. And also how it's just even changing the DevOps sector. So for those wondering about the salary implications of the increased AI usage, or are curious just about how different tech job titles take home in Dallas, definitely check out our tech salary guide we just released. Thank you also for that, marketing team. Yeah, we're going to have copies of that all around here. Definitely make sure you guys take a look at that. That being said, no matter what part of the tech industry you're part of, a hiring manager looking for talent for hard-to-fill roles, or you're looking for a new job, or you're someone just wondering what else is going on in the space, we'll have members of our team or at the career booth that'd be happy to help answer your questions, tell you what we're seeing on a regular basis, from an office that working with, finding these people jobs on a regular basis. Or if you just want to vent about the Cowboys, that's fine too.
So our topic tonight centers around AI, and we have a great panel here to have some discussion with you guys and share some thoughts. I know a lot of friends that are IT leaders, and their leaders have said, go figure out what we need to do with AI. And there's a bunch of theory, but how do you actually put it into practice, and what are people doing? So from adoption strategies to training to having useful tracking metrics and having a top-down plan for AI integration, most companies have that as one of their top priorities for 2025 and beyond. So I'd like to introduce our panel. First and foremost, Stephanie Lippitt, come on up. Rajdeep Biswas. Giri Sripati. And Manoj Kuppam. Thank you, Matt.
We already have our own mics.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can take one. How many of us not going to let them speak? I'll get this one. Okay. Getting settled. Check, check. Right. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are here today to talk about a very interesting topic, which is AI-powered digital innovation and digital transformation. I'm Raj Biswas, Global Vice President of Industry Solutions at Neudesic, which is an IBM subsidiary, and I'll be your host for the evening. Great to meet you all. I am in the industry for 20 plus years, have worked with Apple, JPMorgan, Hortonworks, Microsoft. One interesting trivia about my work experience is my first project when I started as a back-end developer was with a secret project for Apple, which is now known as iCloud. Outside of work, I am a sports enthusiast. I love all types of sports, indoor, outdoors, and I love dogs. As a matter of fact, after this event, if any of you want to go and shoot some pool, just hit me up. Yes, sir.
I got you down.
Okay, all right. Right. So before we dive into the heart of the discussion, I just want to give you guys a run of the event, what we are going to discuss today. So there are 4 distinct topics that we are going to focus on. A little bit more? Okay, yeah, there you go. So the first one being how leaders of today are balancing digital transformation and innovation, aligning with the business goals. And secondly, we are going to talk about AI-powered DevOps, how AI and specifically Gen AI is impacting DevOps and its life cycle. At that point, we are going to talk about workforce training and development because the technology is changing very, very rapidly. So how the leaders are empowering their workforce to adapt to that so that they're not only working hard, but they're working smarter. And last but not the least, we are going to see how we are measuring the return on investment and what kind of key performance metrics the leaders are using for this cutting-edge innovation powered by AI. And then we are going to have a Q&A session, so don't be shy, ask questions. We have an amazing panel. So with that, I would request the panel to introduce themselves, not only talk about their work ex, but also share a little bit outside of work, what makes them smile or motivates them.
Sure. So I'll go first. Everyone able to hear me okay? All right. Good evening, everyone. So I hope you had a couple of drinks, warmed up, and ready for this panel discussion. All right. So I'm going to first give you some little bit of context around CBRE and what we do. Right. So CBRE is the world's largest real estate services and brokerage investment firm. So essentially, what we do is we help the clients, throughout the real estate life cycle, whether it's finding space, through buying or selling process, building out the space. So some of the spaces like you see here, the wonderful work of how the interior design comes out, that's part of our service offering. And then the actual management of that space, and even we offer real estate as an alternate investment class. Okay? So CBRE is a Fortune 200 company. We are globally operating in 100 plus countries. We manage close to 7 billion square feet, right, and 500 billion in transaction volume. So it's a pretty significant operation. So my role as a global digital and technology head for strategy and execution for digital transformations in cloud, AML, developer services, cyber, and products to platforms, right? So these are the areas that I have oversight in all aspects of technology, and that will enable our technology for the business segments that we report into. Okay, and I want to thank Tech in Motion for inviting me as a panelist, and very excited to share some of the experiences that's relevant to our topic here. Fun facts about me, like Raj, I am a sports enthusiastic. I play ping pong, pickleball, golf. Disc golf is a new addition that added to my list. And I think somebody mentioned Dallas Cowboys, so I'm a very die-hard Cowboys fan. I know they're not doing well. They have been not doing well for 3 decades. Okay, so, and the purpose of this meeting is going to be pretty interesting. I feel like they need something AI to really build a rock-solid Super Bowl roster. Okay, don't they? You all agree, right? All right, with that, Stephanie, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you so much for coming to listen to us and coming out tonight. I am Steph Lippitt. I work for Ericsson. How many people know what Ericsson is by show of hands? Oh, more than I thought. Okay. Normally people don't know or ask if we built Sony flip phones or whatever, so I like to say that. So we build wireless networks. We're in our 5th generation right now. We're about halfway through the 5G cycle, so 6G in 5 years. What I do for Ericsson is work on the strategy execution on the network side. So we are the delivery arm of our customer units, who are the salespeople who sell and keep us in business. Then we build and deliver it. And I bridge that gap between pretty much operations and our technical teams. So interesting topic for me today. Fun fact. I did not eat too many tacos. Me and my wonderful husband in the 3rd row there are having our first son in January. So looking forward to that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm probably the most boring person in this panel here. I'm Manoj. I'm a Senior VP for Site Reliability Engineering at JPMorgan Chase. I have I think probably everybody knows JPMorgan Chase. You all love transacting. So, so yeah, you need probably one of our services one day or other. Coming to my job role, I'm kind of responsible for making sure everybody does their job rightly. So a developer, architect, a database engineer guy, a network guy, the infrastructure guys, the servers, everybody else, right? Whatever they did has to be scalable, performant, reliable, and usable. So that's where my focus of work is. And in the next 1 year, whatever problems you have at the Chase Bank, just go throw the feedback there. Or even if you don't throw, I'm monitoring, trying to find what's happening and improve it so it doesn't happen again. That's about my job. And coming to my personal side of it, I do a lot of volunteering. I mentor students online. It's through different platforms. There's across the globe. So there are students, there are professionals who want a career change, so they kind of book sessions with me, and I try to help them. Mostly the requests come from African countries these days, so you know where the tech talent is going, where the new offshore's building. So that's my passion, to enable as many students as possible to earn their dream careers. And then on the family front, I love spending time with my kids, whatever time I have left. After playing cricket, I don't get time to watch sports at this point of time. I love to play as much as possible than being a watcher. But eventually, if my body doesn't permit, that's probably when I'm going to start becoming a sport enthusiast. Yeah, that's about me. 2 sons, happy life here, but I have probably the same empathy towards my cousins and family in India. So that's where my vacation goes mostly.
And happy wife too, right?
So thank you all. It's oh, more closer?
Yes.
All right.
How good are you at pool? Someone online wants to know.
Okay. I'm an APS 7. All right. So it's really fantastic to hear not only about your work, but what keeps you inspired outside of your work. And let's bring all these perspectives into our discussion and explore the intersection of innovation, real-world application, and yes, the human side of tech. Let's dive right in with a key challenge many leaders face: balancing digital innovation with core business needs. Integrating AI is exciting, but aligning it with the business objectives is crucial for its long-term adoption. So, Giri, you have led your organization's digital transformation. Could you share how AI is helping reshape business operations at your organization?
Yeah, sure, Raj. So I think the first and foremost is really having a rock-solid strategy around AI, right? So I know it's no longer hype, so we're actually starting to see things happening. We're able to see come to fruition, right? So CBRE has been making a lot of efforts on AML, for many years. So it's not something new. And on top of it, when you really look at the time we spent well before GenAI sparked up, right? We were many years into this, even before the public awareness of AI soared, right? But we do definitely, we're very optimistic of the potential that AI and GenAI could bring in. So a couple of things I want to tell the forum here that my CDTO, Sandeep Dave, always mentions. It's not about chasing a shiny object, whether it's AI or other technology, right? What we mean there is really what is the business problem that we are trying to solve, right? So that's the key. And the second thing is really laying out a foundation for experimentation. So empowerment for experimentation, even before you start to look at evaluating use cases or implementing use cases, is very profound, right? So you need to give that empowerment to your workforce, to your employees, very key. So our AI strategic framework, was underpinned on 4 key tenets, that really helped us to deploy AI at scale, right? So the first pillar is really around having a robust and rock-solid foundation. So for the first few years, we have migrated ourselves 100% to the cloud and made sure that we had rock-solid agile delivery and practices in place. And over the years, we have also worked on developing our enterprise data platform. So this was well before a lot of these things have happened. So it is very important that we have that strategy in place. Okay. The second pillar of the framework was all centered around business segment use cases, right? So now that we have given our people time and resources for experimentation, naturally you're going to have a lot of ideas, a lot of things that people want to do, right? Which was key. Then selecting those opportunities which will actually move the needle for your business segments is what that pillar was catered towards, okay? And then the third pillar, what I call, is the enterprise productivity toolkits. So AI infusion within the enterprise, which is really your back office function, is going to be key, right? Because there's a lot of efficiencies you can see come to fruition in that area. So what we have done there is really allowing, validating and onboarding enterprise-grade productivity toolkits, such as your co-pilots, your assistants, your chatbots. And we have done that with a collaboration and, very early, being part of very early access programs with our key strategic software vendors, which is very key, right? And then the fourth but not the least is communications and engagement, right? So whether it's internal and external communications, ensuring training and engagement is, with your all your employees is rock solid. So those were some of the key things that we had to lay out first. We formulated that AI strategic framework even before we embarked on anything else, right? So with that, back to you.
That's a great answer. I specifically loved the idea of empowering employees to create a safe place for innovation, right? Where they can experiment and hey, we all learn from our failures. The people who has never failed has essentially never learned anything new in their life. With that, Stephanie, you are constantly balancing innovation with stability. How do you manage the challenge of pushing boundaries with AI while ensuring operational stability?
Yeah, I think this is a problem that everyone faces no matter what domain you are in. It's that age-old saying, right? Too busy chopping wood to sharpen your blade. Which makes it sound really easy, but it's actually very complex when you have customer demands and SLAs you need to meet to take the time to automate, clean data, let alone introduce AI, can be very disruptive and daunting. So I would say you really have to take a phased risk mitigating approach. And that's probably starting with small pilot AI use cases. Everyone's so excited about AI, I feel like everyone wants to have this curtains up, huge proof of concept, groundbreaking thing that's introduced, but in reality, the ROI from AI is going to be on some of those small, boring, mundane tasks that you can introduce in a very phased approach and see real returns on productivity. So I think in addition to that, you also need to build parallel systems to keep yourself up and running while you're doing these piloted introductions and rigorously test on those parallel systems. And while you're doing that, ensure that people are trained and upskilled on not only what the AI is meant to do, but what it's not meant to do. So that by the time you're deploying this widely, you're getting that feedback loop, you've tested it on small areas. I stole this from someone, I can't remember who to give him credit to, but it's an interesting way of thinking about it. A company who's done a great job of introducing AI with the user in mind is Apple. And the reason being, they're not looking at it as automating a whole process at once, right? It's augmenting so that the user has a better experience. So if you think one day your phone all of a sudden has emojis that are pre-populated when you type sun, it just makes the experience a little bit better. Or your photos are now categorized by the person or the place where you took them. It's just a little bit better. I think we need to embrace that when we're rolling it out within our business, is what is the user experience, and it might not be that groundbreaking use case.
No, that's amazing insight. In my experience of leading large-scale, global, high-performing engineering teams, we had this one simple mantra: fail fast. If you are innovating and if you are failing after 6 months, that's catastrophic. Fail in the first 2 weeks, and that's fair, right? With that, Manoj, in your experience, where have you seen the most business value from AI investments?
Out of the bat, right? Copilot, the code assistant, which is actually improving the productivity of every developer. There's a lot of times there's a fatigue with the developers. Sometimes they're not in the mood to do the right code. And what happens? You get a very bad code quality as an outcome. And where the AI immediately solved a problem for us is asking my developers to do something using a code assist, Copilot, right? So it writes the code for you. All you have to do is that kind of solves 70% of the problem for you, and then you analyze the situation and maybe correct the code according to your company's needs or your method that your architect proposed. So code assist is one definitely thing. The second thing is adding to the strategy, go closer to the customer. In this case, my customer is a developer. For him, coding is the main problem. That's what I was able to automate or improve the productivity. Now, you as the problem solver using technology like AI, go closer to the customer. So my customer who comes to purchase a product, do some kind of activity, what's the thing that can be automated without impacting their outcome, but actually assist in doing things faster? For example, I have a Mexican coming doing something. He doesn't know English, he knows Spanish. And he wants to speak to somebody. Then I probably have a kiosk that can automatically understand and answer, not a hard-coded answer, but something that is generated on the fly, and also assisting the customer, right? So that's probably one type of thing, if I look at that as a use case. I can think of testers, right? Manual testing, obviously, is already automated. So where can I add additional layer of testing so that I can integrate my test scenario with the code changes that have happened? Because most of the times the failures in production system come when there is a change. Because my testing did not cover the scenario that was never happened or that was never thought of before. So that's where my AI assist can automatically improve my test scenarios, write new test cases so that it can solve the problem. So go closer to the customer, think of what is the main objective that the customer is supposed to do at that point of thing, try to see the functions that are where AI can be a problem solver. That's probably a strategy that I would say are the things that we can immediately hang on to and start getting along. And of course, do it as a microservice on top of what you are already doing. Don't go with a big bang approach. Like Steph said, start with a microservice that assists your existing functionality than replacing entire thing, and then improve on it.
You guys want to add something?
Yeah. Sure. So I know I talked about strategy right now coming to execution, which is going to be the key, right? So how do you prioritize and where do you start? That's always, first in mind for a lot of corporations, a lot of people that we work with. So what we did was, we took a 2x2 prioritization grid, that probably most of you guys are very familiar with. And we used value and feasibility as our key parameters, right? So if you really look at high value and high feasibility, these are your quick wins. And what it has done is it has actually generated excitement within our corporation. And also, it helped by getting the buy-in from the stakeholders, which is very key, right? So this was at the beginning of a journey, right? Then when you look at your high value, either low feasibility or low value or high feasibility, these are typically the use cases that tend to be between your low-hanging fruit and requiring some investments, right? So these typically fell into predictive modeling and machine learning area, right? Which actually had big impacts. And comes with some investments as well, right? So when we looked at this approach, we then we were able to implement more than 30 use cases that were moving the needle for business, right? So these had, huge, big impacts. So some of the examples that we have done, for example, we are sitting in this event center, and you would be asking, okay, what would be the next generation of managing these facilities, right? So when we looked at that, it really boils down to two things right now, based on where we are in this journey, is going after and using all your cloud-native technologies, huge, right? And then the application of AI, within this in a smart manner is going to be key, right? So with this, what we have done is we call it AI-enabled Smart FM, which we have been able to apply to more than 1 billion square feet. and across 20,000 sites, right? So some of the benefits we have seen is not only it's helping the client's bottom line when it comes to energy and efficiencies, but it's also helped us reduce the carbon emissions and also improve sustainability, right? There's one more business segment called Global Workplace Solutions within our organization. And there we have done what we call Advanced Analytics Package. So CBRE processes roughly 15 million work orders annually. So you can see the scale of the work order management we have. So the key there was, okay, how do we predict what work orders we're going to be missing SLAs? So it was huge for us, right? And then really looking at how we can reduce duplicate orders, right? So both cases, it was a mutual benefit for our business as well as the clients. So third example is probably, I think, most overarching with the organizations is document abstraction. What can you do with your documents when it comes to providing insights? So a lot of use cases we've implemented in those areas. If I recall, when I was part of mortgage servicing with Bank of America, one of my portfolios was doc processing. So we used to have this big 15, 20 IBML scanners. So we used to have like 15 to 20 such machines in a huge facility center. And these puppies would scan close to 1 million pages a day, right? And we had OCR functions, and we had, document abstraction. These were all legacy now, right? So industries like real estate and banking and financial services, and probably a lot of other industries, it's a lot of paper intensive, right? So just imagine the power of Gen AI, reaping the benefits, especially in the doc abstraction and doc extraction, is going to be huge.
Now, it's really fascinating to hear how each of you are balancing innovation, aligning with your respective business. Now, we are going to take it a step farther and talk about AI and DevOps. DevOps has been a game changer for rapid development, but adding AI and Gen AI to the mix is a totally different ballgame altogether. Let's talk about how AI can amplify DevOps processes. Manoj, security is a major focus within DevOps. How is AI enhancing security, particularly in threat detection and vulnerability management?
We were just talking about how the code quality can be improved, right? So adding to that, I would say just start with OWASP rules. We have those vulnerabilities defined. The best way AI can easily adapt is I can read the code, put some conditions with AI. When I say I, it's the AI, okay. The AI can do the OWASP analysis, integrate all these tools together. There's a platform that I have recently tested called Kubia. I don't know if anybody else used it. Did anybody? Kubia, K-U-B-I-Y-A. Yeah. So it's a platform that I have tested for a DevOps pipeline deployment. And the way you can integrate different platforms like Jira, like SonarQube, like Confluence, and also the testing side of the tools, not just the project management, if you go further down. So when you want to automate the entire pipeline, integrating all these platforms, a lot of overhead that people don't like to do, people feel not that interesting to do, or because I have a dependency of somebody doing something before I can do this. These type of tasks, the overhead typically kind of gets driven away with a platform like that. I mean, it's just one of the examples. But so the way I see it is something that was taking almost a week for me to plan and deliver, by using an AI platform that can integrate different tools in my DevOps pipeline deployment, can be done within a day. And it has ability to take the decision but you are the one who is going to approve it eventually. Don't get me wrong that it'll take its foundation and you can rely on that. You are ultimately the owner who is going to approve at the end of the day for each step. But it does all the hard work for you and asks you to finally review something, gives you a very clean Gen AI-based outcome that you can do to deploy. And now, let's say the deployment went further. It got deployed. And what happens next, right? So then there is a solution that can look into the deployment metrics, the key DORA metrics that we follow, the MTTRs or the change failure rates and things like that. So if there is something that got incorrectly deployed, I have a way to measure these metrics at that point right there. And it can also integrate with certain FinOps platforms if we can manage. Let's say I'm going to deploy my microservice into 10 pods versus 5 pods. That's a configuration somebody has given. My AI assist can tell us, hey, this platform or this microservice has had certain number of requests, which is way less than what you're proposing, and I don't see an immediate need to deploy 5 pods. You can probably do it with 2. That's basically a cost saving. Or it can give you, by deploying this service, you're going to get a cost bill of this towards the end of the month, and it's basically a FinOps assistant. And finally, the troubleshooting of issues after you're deployed. So those are some of the metrics where I can keep a track of all the data that has happened over the history and use Gen AI tools to really get an outcome that can tell what is the cause of failure. So I'm kind of reducing my mean time to recovery and repair. Basically assisting through the pipeline at all stages. Again, this is a lot of work to do, but at a high level, that's basically how AI can really improve the productivity and also reduce the cost overhead for a company as we.
No, that's amazing to hear. So Giri, quickly, what are some of the AI tools or technologies that you have seen to be most impactful in automating and optimizing tasks around the DevOps realm?
Yeah, around the DevOps. So I'll hit a few examples. When we look at DevOps and the software development lifecycle, right? Our idea was to have as many AI interventions infused into the entire development lifecycle, right? So we see a lot of potential to have tremendous efficiency boost across the development organization. So what we have done is the developer experience was a very key focus area where we have infused all these interventions throughout the life cycle. And we have looked at lots of pilots, lots of evaluation, and finalized various AI-powered bots. So these have been operational for probably more than a year. A couple of them have been rolled out in the last couple of months. So some examples that are actually giving the efficiency boost, extending to what Manoj was saying. An example, we call it designer bot. So you're all familiar with some of the UX design that happens, whether you use Figma or other tools. Just imagine having to develop UI code from that UX design. It typically takes anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks, right? So again, depending upon the complexity of the UX design, right? So the introduction of this AI-powered designer bot, now with a click of button, we can generate UI code within minutes for any language of your choice. Right? So beautiful. So these are all efficiency plays. Another example I can give you is what we call planner bot. So this is actually helping our product management community, right? So just imagine you have a business case, it's approved and it's funded. Now, the product managers have to come up with your epics, features, stories, put that into ADO boards or Jira boards. There's time involved in that aspect, right? So this planner bot actually takes the business case, generates the entire framework of epics, features, and stories, and to the work item, and that's your starting point. So you have actually, again, another efficiency play that we have already introduced. GitHub Copilot is another one that we have been using for quite some time. We have been as part of the early access program, so we really knew what was coming up and what was in the roadmap well ahead from other competitors of us. So huge benefit there, right? Whether you generate code, whether you refactor code. And we also introduced what we call PR bot. So most of you are probably familiar with the pull request, right when you do the deployments. So there, we have now started to doing automated code reviews.
Giri, sorry, in the interest of time, I'm sure you have hundreds
absolutely.
of more examples. You are very, very, you love the subject, but we are going to come back to you, right? So moving on, Stephanie, how do you see AI fostering collaboration between development and operational teams? And then also a follow-up is, do you have any insights on how AI is helping breaking down some of the departmental silos?
Yeah, for sure. I would say they're a match made in heaven, right? DevOps theory is shift left, right, in testing. And AI is just further shifting left. So, for example, with Ericsson, we have to introduce new software loads, let's say every quarter, or whenever that may be. As we move to cloud-based networks, that is much more frequent. And as you can imagine, our carriers all have unique configurations. So the testing that goes into deploying new software takes a lot of communication between the development teams and then feedback from our operations teams when it finally hits the field, and then a lot of root cause analysis in between if that software quality isn't perfect, tested on that exact configuration. So you can imagine in scenarios like that, it's really closing that loop. I know we've heard a lot about software testing, so maybe an even cooler use case between AI and ops. While Ericsson is a technology company, it's very much a construction company in many ways. I think one of the coolest things we've done is something called Ericsson Site Digital Twin, where we're actually building digital twins rather than having to send our field teams and ASPs out to the site. Building wireless networks is quite complex. You're down to line of sight, different spectrums, different radios, different environments at a city to rural. We're able to model all of those using AI, even in some areas that are prone to monsoons, for instance, seeing what the wind loads might be in those areas for the network infrastructure to stay up. So some pretty cool use cases that really bridge the gap where you had to physically send operations teams out.
No, this is amazing. So it's clear that AI is pushing the limits of DevOps in fascinating ways. Now let's shift to an equally important topic, the people behind these technologies. As AI takes on a larger role, it's critical to ensure that the teams are equipped with the right skills. Training and development are more crucial than ever. I will start with Stephanie. So from your perspective, what are the best strategies for training teams to leverage AI effectively in their respective roles?
Yeah, I think the first thing that companies should get ahead of is explaining your strategy and why you're introducing this technology. Because a lot of times the first thing you hear with AI is it going to take my job? Especially if you get to people who code software and things like that. So clearly explaining why you're rolling this out and what the expectations are, that it's to augment and free up their time to work on more strategic things, and what are those things. So I think that's first and foremost that we don't always do a great job of. It's kind of take this training. The second thing, I think, is making specified training. So I met my brilliant colleague earlier. He's in the R&D department. I can assure you he does not need the same training that I need.
And I introduced
AI.
both of them, by the way.
And, we have such a habit of AI is rolling out. We're in wireless. Learn how to network slice with automation. And it's I'm never going to do a network slice. What is this talking about? So customizing training for the domains you're speaking to, right? How can the finance team use AI? How can the operations teams automate billing and make sure closeout packages are done? Make it relevant rather than just kind of blanket doing a strategy across your whole organization. And then I think most importantly, and I think a lot of technologists know this and engineers in the room, they already have that mentality of being a lifelong learner. Some other domains, we don't really expect that. We go to school, we do learn a little bit about our industry, but we do our jobs. AI is changing things, right? Everyone is using it. Like I just said, everyone from finance to construction teams, and it's no longer just the technologists using it. So really having those champions throughout the organization that are fostering that environment, training other people, telling you it's continuous. What's exciting about that is we're all on level playing field now. As no expert necessarily in AI because it's constantly changing.
This is an amazing answer. And Giri and Manoj, we would definitely love to hear how you both are preparing your teams for AI adoption.
Okay, I'll go first. So we developed a multi-LLM, self-service generative AI platform almost more than a year back. So the idea here was, before we jump into persona-based or business segment-based training, we want to get the foundational training for GenAI to, cover most of our workforce. So what this enabled us to do is, now the CBRE employees are able to, use GenAI for various tasks, right? Whether it's gaining insights from the proprietary data and documents, or use of chatbots, right, to solve their problems, or generating new content or translating forms, right? So we have now close to 30,000 people adopted on this platform, so which is almost 25% of our workforce. So what this has really given us, it has provided us foundational training, organically by using this product, right? So now we have, taken that. As part of our other AI literacy efforts, we were able to, roll out AI for All as a mini video series. We have done a couple of curriculums around AI for business leaders and AI for practitioners. And then more is coming, right? So to Stephanie's point, specifically zooming on what does the segments want, right? What are the personas that they need? What is the specific tailored training that they need to have? A lot of that is already in works and, is getting implemented this year and next year.
I'll quickly add a couple of scenarios, right? One, most of my customers are either the administrative task doers or the technology developers mostly. So what we did was for admin task guys, we had the GenAI. It was not even a lot of training. It was honestly like some very basic training, making sure they're aware of the AI jargon, making sure they're using better prompt engineering. It's all very basic level of training that was given. And the outcome of it was, I was working for a medical company. They had some FDA process that they go through before they release a new product. And they typically get a research work of about, let's say, 2,000 papers, roughly, for a product to go. And then there's this admin guy who has to do the overview abstract of it, and they typically get a month or two in the past, close to 2 months, depending on the product, depending on the size, depending on the criticality, month to 2 months. And what GenAI skills gave them was you get an output in 10 minutes, and then you take these 2 days to validate the abstract is correct before we submit it for the approval. See, that's the level of skill improvement that came off by enabling the developers, enabling the admins. And from the developer standpoint, the learning is a little more intense. We are training them on the importance of data, the importance of capturing the data, basically the monitoring of data and collecting the telemetry. Because unless you have the data layer refined, your AI is never going to be perfect or it's not going to help you. Of course, I'm not talking about the code assist. I'm talking about how do we improve. So we are asking all the developers to really be proficient in at least one language. So most likely Python, if you want to become an AI developer or something. So, or machine learning or anything. So we train them on that technologies, and we reward them with certifications. If they do any certifications, we reward them with some bonus points and things like that. We define that as their key goal for the end of the year objective for an appraisal. And then we are promoting mentorship activities. So have a buddy, make sure you're upskilling somebody else along with you. You're a senior, you can do it by yourself, but have somebody, because it helps both the junior and also the senior, because the senior, when you have somebody with you, training is the best way of improving, retrospecting your skills and your knowledge. So that's where having a buddy is helping, at least that's what I would propose. I can't speak for JPMC Word, but that's what I used to do with my previous company, and it has helped quite a bit improve the skills and learning.
And this is amazing. During my Microsoft days, I first heard about this phrase, growth mindset, which is essentially, don't be a know-it-all, be a learn-it-all, right? In today's day and age, learning new things, keeping yourself embraced with the changes that are happening is paramount, because AI is never going to take anyone's job, but the people who have embraced and learned and literally bent their back, for sure they're going to take the jobs. But not only the Microsoft and the recent advancements focusing on learning, I'll tell you guys 10,000-year-old Sanskrit sloka, which means which is called mavoi mavoi, which means to move forward. So you are always learning along the way. That's ancient, but I think that's how the civilization progresses. It's not going to stop for anyone. Amazing. So it's clear that AI can enhance technology, but it's ultimately the people behind it who drives success. Now, speaking of success, let's address the challenges and how we measure progress. Implementing AI is one thing, but understanding its impact and return on investment is another. For our final theme, let's look at how organizations can measure the success of their AI investments. Manoj, how do you define success for AI investments at your organization, it being super regulated and very complex landscape?
I can, like I said, I can't speak about my current job role, but I'll give an industry or my past experiences, right? So the success really depends on initiative by initiative. It can vary, but what was the objective with which you started that? And you definitely have to define the metrics which is going to be your success criteria at the beginning. So let's take the example of customers' feedback, right? So what is the experience of the customer using that specific AI product? It could be an end customer making a shopping, or it could be an internal customer doing a code development work, or it could be an admin doing document abstraction. So in the examples that I've given, let's take 5 minutes ago, we were talking about an admin. They were able to improve their productivity from 1 to 2 months to a couple of days, right? So that's a success criteria for us. What is the objective? There, the objective was to improve the productivity. We didn't really have, because AI is still at its early phase, we didn't really have a clear definition. I want to reduce it to half an hour. We went with a little open mind, try this approach and see how it comes out, right? So we tested that for 3 to 5 scenarios. So the average saving is roughly, in this particular case, 30 days to 2 days. So we are saving it 15 times the effort. Now, that could be different in terms of code development. For code development, what's my code development productivity? Productivity is the key metric in this case, so that goes along. Similarly, we also measure the customer engagement time. So with the typical customer representative versus AI representative, what is the time that a customer is spending, and at the end of the day, did the work get finished, accomplished, right? If it did.
Manoj, I'm going to come back to that. In the interest of time, I would request Stephanie and Giri also to add some colors into some of the ROIs, or even if you have faced any obstacles and how you have overcome them while measuring the projects.
So I think you covered really well kind of the tangible benefits, and there's revenue generating, or there's those very trackable ones that you can measure 20% improvement on productivity. Where it gets tricky, I think, is also considering the intangible benefits. So is my customer happier now that we have this chat bot? Are they getting resolutions faster and I've retained a customer? Or a lot of what I deal with in my job is a lot of manual tracking on projects where I have very high value engineers spending time in spreadsheets and generating reports. Am I able to, A, free up their time for innovation, but are they now staying with Ericsson because they have that time to innovate and they're not spending time on administrative tasks? So I think it's just important to also consider kind of the quality of life for both your employees and also how it improves the customer's experience.
All right, so, ultimately it's the bottom line, right? So what is your efficiency gains? How are you doing your cost saves or cost avoidance? So to effectively, assess the impact and, secure the investments that you need, it was very important for us to come up with a global, what we call global efficiency tracking and reporting from the onset, right? Because you have defined the strategy, you're executing it, you need to measure it, right? So we have done throughout those pillars that I mentioned, where we are able to track to the nth degree. We know exactly how, when I talk about our Ellis AI platform that I mentioned, we know how many people are using it, we know by region, by location. We also know by the amount of tokens they use per day by LLM, right? So that's the level of insights we can easily get to. Back to GitHub Copilot, 100% of our developer community is onboarded. So the key metric that we measure there is, okay, the pilot is giving you, it's generating code for you, it's refactoring code for you, but how much are you really accepting? How much are the developers accepting, right? So we measure what's called an acceptance rate. So the last 6 months to 1 year, what we have seen is we are closer to 25% acceptance rate. That means the developers are actually using the Copilot and actually accepting the code. And an interesting fact there is now if you translate to the number of lines of code, year to date we are almost at 500,000 lines of code. So it's just phenomenal, right?
It's really inspiring to see how all of you are innovating, but also tracking the real-world progress, because often there is a huge gap. So thank you so much for sharing these invaluable insights. At this point, I would turn it over to our audience, both here in the room and those who have tuned in virtually. So Hannah, you can ask the questions who have tuned in virtually, and we'll go from there. Yep.
All right, so we're going to start with a question from our virtual audience, and then we'll pass it over to you all in person. So their question is, how does AI help with predictive analytics in DevOps, particularly in forecasting system failures or performance bottlenecks?
Oh, yeah. So whoever the question is, I did refer to that topic, but I'll refer you to a tool too. It's called Substack. Okay, it gives you first-hand experience of how you can actually get the exact output of what you're asking the person, whoever is the questioner. So I go there. I kind of try to deploy a piece of code, And then it gives you ability to navigate into the next step and tells you how do I troubleshoot, or what's happening, what's the health, what's the number of transactions that are running, what is the latency, and what are the errors if there are any. And then the Gen AI aspect of it comes into picture. It analyzes that, and then it gives you an output right there on the screen, almost instantly, saying, this is a 404 error, for example, if some customer had it. There's a 404 error because it's a bad authentication request or something. Or there is a 429 because there are too many customers hitting the thing. And it kind of immediately tells the deployment has either been successful or a failure. So that's what I would say. It's basically giving you instant results of your deployment or release. And it is also analyzing the logs that are generated from the piece of code that was deployed based on the real customer usage, or it could be a testing script, whatever it is. And the reason I referred Substack as a product is because they are giving you a free version to play around with it. So just use it as a playground, test it out.
Great, thank you. Okay, anyone in the audience have a question? I'll run the mic. Here, we'll start over here.
Hi, my question's for Giri. Yeah. Giri, how infallible is AI? You said that your stat was to look at percentage acceptance of code. What if it hallucinates? How do you manage for that? That's my question.
Yeah, so great question, and catch the name. So we have to be, Rob, we have to be mindful of the technology limitations that it gets us, right? Obviously, the big one is hallucinations. So we always ensure that, human is in the loop. We need to make sure that validation is necessary. So those aspects, you really need to be still doing, okay? I know, in terms of the industry trend, agentic AI is going to come where you're talking about fully autonomous agents, right, that would do work. I don't think we are there yet. It's probably in the early stages. But I think you just have to be with caution, and making sure that, you're still keeping human in the loop, making sure that your validation is necessary.
So acceptance rate goal can't be 100%.
It cannot be 100%, because, see, we have also introduced automating code reviews, right? So there we also have a step where we want to make sure there's a final, validation check, right? I don't think we'll ever get to 100% code acceptance. Again, when I talk about 25% acceptance rate, we know that those developers have accepted the code. Now, one thing that we don't know is, okay, out of that, how much is actually being deployed to the production, right? So that's something that we are looking into. Hope that answers your question.
No, thank you.
Okay.
So, I'm good. Am I audible?
Yes.
So, I have been in developer field for a long. I'm very glad to know these tools are being, it is good to learn for developers like Copilot and whatever you are saying, Gen AI with Kubernetes or whatever DevOps, it's good to learn. So yeah, definitely I'm glad that I get to know. But you are a big firms, right, who adopted these tools at one level and then gradually you are spreading it to other departments. But are the mid-level companies are also going into AI world, who are the pure software companies? Since many years their business is only on the software jobs. They are also gradually adopting these tools. So that I want to understand.
So your question is where someone who is a fresher should focus? Is that?
My question is that all the organizations are now started adopting this Gen AI tools and it is worth learning or what is the scope that I'm not very clear, because I see there are so many job openings still in this developer roles. They are nowhere mentioned in this kind of tools. So what do you foresee?
So I think, it depends on the size of the company and what kind of investment we make, right? And how we, infuse that into the organization. So big organizations like CBRE, we have that kind of investment, we can do. But small, medium companies, they're probably tapping into that. But overall, my comment there or my opinion is, at some point, this hype has already become real, right? So you got to latch on and be curious about learning these technologies, learning these tools, right? So to a point earlier that Raj mentioned, right, it's not going to take away the jobs, but if you as developers or testers, you're not familiar with these tools, you're going to be left behind. And when you look at the previous, growth on internet, right? So when we all, saw that, grow similar to what we are seeing now, the more you're behind, it's going to be exponentially hard to come back, right? So I guess that would what my comments would be.
Yeah, and just to add, because you said, the barrier to entry for mid-sized companies, if I heard that correctly, and
With the security issues also, how much effort should I invest in that?
yeah, I would say right now, AI, we're in the bubble, right? And so that's largely driven by the hyperscalers, by the Googles of the world who have interest in this and have the money to build it, right? When you're building it and buying developers, GPUs, all of these different infrastructure items. What's good about that is while it might make it off limits for a grocery store chain to build AI to see how they should stock their shelves, in time that will come with maturity because the ecosystem is now building around that. We can go on Claude AI or ChatGPT and use large language models for free. So I'd say even if you're at a small business, mid-sized business, you can still look into things like Copilot that are well within reach without going off the deep end and building up a development team.
I just want to break a myth here. You mentioned about developer jobs that you're seeing online. The jobs are not going anywhere. See, think of it. AI is a code generator, right? That's why you think developer's job is not good. No. AI generates so much code that there is a need for somebody to go look at that code, review the code, fix the things. There is going to be a continuous evolution process on this. So instead of 1 trillion lines of code that exists today, probably it's way less, but there could be 5 trillion lines of code after 5 years. So you need somebody to manage, maintain that. So the jobs are not going to go away. The jobs are going to transform and evolve. A DevOps engineer can probably become an SRE. A developer can become an SRE. It changes. That's what I would say.
Yeah, let me add some additional commentary there. Yeah. So there is good and bad, right? So when I talked about metrics and Robert was asking that question, so we do look at who are not using the tool. You don't want to be one of those people, right? And the second thing is, it's not going to go away anywhere. But make sure that you're retooling yourself so that way, you're staying within the industry trend. That's very key. That's very important.
I just want to quickly add, so this is absolutely, I'm in alignment. I think if I am trying to be very prescriptive about it, for small, medium companies, there are some things that are going to happen with certainty. Number one, they are going to adopt one or more public cloud, right? Azure, AWS, GCP. That's gonna happen. If someone is trying to get into these technologies, it's okay to start with one cloud. The paradigm remains the same. Secondly, again, coming from the cloud world, you go back 3 years, there used to be a division of job. Someone is focused on data, someone is application, someone is more infrastructure and security focused, and maybe someone is a pure play data scientist. Now what has changed is for all of those specialists, you need to understand how AI and Gen AI is helping you do the job better, faster, cheaper, right? So the fundamentals remains the same, But you still need to understand where the world is going. Otherwise, someone else who kind of understands these intricacies and use the technology smartly can actually go for your job. Yeah. You can go for the next question, Hannah.
All right, I think we have time for one more question. Did we have one over here?
Let's do 2, please.
I have like 6. Giri, how are you? It's been a while. Question on, you say you're measuring this, the use of the sandbox, right? And my question there is, what are they using it for mostly? And is that sandbox 30,000 general people that you're utilizing? And then I can keep going if you want to keep having a conversation.
So that's primarily for internal usage, right? So these are all for CBRE users. And the way that the platform is helping is, we don't expose it externally. Mm-hmm. So there is no apprehension for the users to worry about, hey, is this proprietary and sensitive information, being thrown out, right?
But they're using it mostly then for data analysis on whether, are they using it on the real estate side or on the funding side?
So pretty much entire our real estate life cycle.
Okay.
So we use LSAI platform.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. We will just give the gentleman just one last quick question. There you go, sir.
Yeah, actually, my question was on data governance as well, pretty much the same. So you guys are big enterprises. So I know one thing like big enterprises have issues like the data itself, because small companies and startup easily can play around and the regulation is not the same. I know there is real estate, telecom, if I'm not mistaken, and finance. These are regulated like markets. So how do you guys manage your data in terms of data governance with those Gen AI? Are you guys like hosting your own Gen AI, or you guys using like the market ones?
All right, the example that I gave, right, around the platform that we built, we use multi-LLMs, so, I can't name the names, but that is within our network, right? So that's how we make it secure, okay? So you don't have to, when I play around with chatbot, I'm not using ChatGPT, right? So I'm using our homegrown, and it's well protected. We actually, nobody in CBRE can actually go to ChatGPT or any other public LLMs, right? So we have blocked all that network. But this platform will empower the users to easily do the Gen AI capabilities. Now, in terms of data governance and the data, since we had that enterprise data platform that we built, we are in a much better position, right? So that doesn't mean that there's not room for improvement. There's always be continuous room for improvement there.
Just add to that. The regulations are happening in real time, right? Like they're not set, and that is a very big risk. And that is another reason why the entire organization needs to be trained on how we're using AI, because it's not just federal regulations or global. Each country has their own. Each state has their own. Illinois has a different data collection law than Texas does. And then further, how you're using that data. Are you allowed to process it? Does it need to be anonymized? Do you even own it? I don't own my customers' data that's processing over our networks in some cases. So I think it's a huge, huge risk that everyone has to be aware of throughout the company when you're using AI.
I think the bottom line is whether you are using off-the-shelf models or building it yourself, you still are responsible on how that model is behaving. That doesn't go away. Probably it's better for smaller companies to use off-the-shelf models because you are delegating a little bit more, so you are trusting some of the giants to do their job, and then on top of that, you are doing your due diligence. But with that, we want to wrap up. I want to express my gratitude to our panelists, Manoj, Stephanie, Giri, for sharing their time, wisdom, and unique perspectives. Also, thank you to Tech in Motion for bringing us all together, and to all of you for joining us. Let's continue these conversations, and let's make tomorrow's digital world better than today's. Enjoy the rest of your evening and feel free to connect as we move into networking. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, give a hand to our panel one more time. Give them a hand. Hi, I'm Ryan. I am part of the Motion Recruitment and Tech and Motion team. As we said, people that are here in Dallas right now, feel free to continue socializing. We still have plenty of food. We still have plenty of drinks. Feel free to network. If you have any more conversations or any questions that you didn't have with the panel, they'll be hanging around for a little bit. For our webinar, that is it for the evening. Thank you so much for dropping by. Really do appreciate it. And make sure to download the Motion Recruitment 2025 Tech Salary Guide. It's amazing, has a lot of great stuff here, stuff we talked about today, as well as other tech insights. Thank you so much, everybody. Good night.